fierce street fighting in eastern Ukraine. President Zelensky says his forces are holding on, but warns troops are running low on ammunition. The Ukrainian president has said his troops are running low on ammunition as they try to repel Russian invaders in the east.
Volodymyr Zelensky says that his forces are holding on for now as they engage in fierce street fighting, but he appealed for more help from Western powers. Helena Wilkinson's got the latest.
This is the east of Ukraine in the Donbass region. It's one of the areas Russian forces have focused their firepower. Ukrainian soldiers are still holding out here, but the intense fighting goes on. Ukraine's army says it's running low on artillery shells. The Ukrainian governor of the Luhansk province claimed they could hold on to the besieged city of Severodonetsk if Western allies sent them enough long-range artillery. In Ukraine's capital, Kyiv, the European Commission president met with Ukraine's president, there to discuss Ukraine's request for EU membership. President Zelensky argued that the EU's future depended on letting his country in.
All of Europe is a target for Russia, we are sure of it, and Ukraine is just the first stage in this aggression. This is why a positive EU response to the Ukrainian application for membership can be a positive answer to the question of whether the European project has a future at all.
The EU will decide next week whether Ukraine should be given candidate status.
You have done a lot in strengthening the rule of law, but there still needs to be reforms implemented to fight corruption, for example.
Very fruitful talks with the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, were held in Kyiv today. I am glad to note her sincerity. It is the European Commission that will prepare a conclusion about our application. Ukraine has provided all the necessary answers in a very short time, and it was done in a proper way.
In the south of the country, fighting has left villages devastated. Homes and churches have been destroyed. Ukraine now waits to find out if the EU will allow it to become a member. In the short term, though, the country says it needs more weapons and quickly from the West to be able to defend itself. Helena Wilkinson, BBC News.
Well, correspondent Joe Inwood is in Kyiv. Joe, we are hearing reports of a large fire at a chemical plant in Severodonetsk. What more can you tell us?
Yeah, so this is the Azot chemical plant. It's a big complex in the centre of the city, and it's one of the places that Ukrainian forces have been pushed back to are defending. We understand that there was heavy shelling, as there has been right across this city for days now, but heavy shelling overnight in the last few hours, and it's caused a massive fire. Tons and tons of oil from radiators, we understand, are leaking out. This is all according to Sergei Hidai. He is the Ukrainian regional governor of Luhansk region. Now, Luhansk is the place where the focus of the Russian forces has really been kind of over the last few weeks. As a consequence, there's been massed artillery, huge barrages, and so large parts of this city have been destroyed. Now, as well as the soldiers there are civilians as well. We understand about 800 taking shelter, unable to get out now. The roads are pretty much sealed off, and so they're going to have to keep their heads down as much as they can, try and withstand this bombardment, but it is looking fairly desperate in Severodonetsk.
Back to Ukraine now, and we were hearing earlier about the fierce battles in the east. In Kyiv, meanwhile, the worst of the fighting is over. Some residents are trying to return home, but mines left behind by both sides continue to pose a danger.
Yeah, so the British demining agency, the Halo Trust, is working to remove the explosives, but the process is slow and it could take years to complete, as Joe Inwood now reports.
Ukrainians are a resilient people, already back on the land. It's just a couple of months since these fields were the scene of fierce fighting, and they still bear the scars.
This network of fortifications were dug by the Ukrainians as they prepared for the advance of the Russian forces. But trenches aren't the only thing that remain under the surface of these fields.
Anti-tank mines, as the family in this minibus discovered, are deadly and hidden all over the countryside. The Halo Trust are starting to remove them, but it will be a long process.
It's a massive scale given the nature of the conflict, and it's very difficult to put estimates on how long. There's a huge work ahead, and we're talking years, maybe decades to clear Ukraine. What we see at Halo is the impact on the local level. It's civilians being killed.
And it's not just mines that are scattered over this once peaceful land. Elena shows me the collection of rockets that landed in her fields. But the real danger to her comes from cluster bombs. Banned by most countries, the Russians have used them liberally in their invasion of Ukraine. Elena takes me to the field where 2 landed.
You can imagine how scared I am. The cluster bomb was behind a tree. They took it away, but what if there is something left?
As we were filming, the danger became apparent. Just down the road from Elena's house, a truck drove over a mine. These shots were taken by the Halo team.
So as you can see, it was the rear right wheel of this truck that went over the anti-tank mine. It's a huge crater back there. What's important is that roads like this are essential for the agricultural economy of this country. And that agricultural economy is essential for feeding the world.
Well, I mean, the problem is that, this is one of the breadbasket of the world. The grain from here will go all over the world. And if the farmers can't plant it, then the rest of the world will suffer.
There is already talk of a global food crisis caused by this ill-fated invasion. Farming has always been a precarious business. Now it is a life-threatening one as well. Changing that will take many years. Joe Inwood, BBC News, Kyiv.